Am I live? Can anyone hear me? Am I live? Can anyone hear me? All right, looks like we are live. Market just opened. So far I took 2 trades today. I was putting my daughter on the bus this morning, so I missed this really beautiful waterfall down here. I should probably point out, if I was here, what that actually would have looked like using my strategy. So the delta crossed under this confirmation line, and we started to get a really aggressive slope down on those delta candles. And if you look right here, this tick down, when we have this aggressive slope down, do you see how this here, let me change my view here so this is easier to see. So if you look at this delta candle right there, that's thicker than the previous one. So that satisfies the requirement for an impulsive breakout move. So you enter short right there. So that would have been on the close of this candle. And with that aggressive slope coming down the way that it is, you would either wait for like a delta cross or some type of a buy signal, which you don't have yet. And so as long as this signal line stays underneath this delta, here it actually closes above it. However, the delta is still really thick at that point. And at that point, it's right here. Here, let me point that out. It's right here. It doesn't close above the 8 moving average, SMA. So you would still stay in. And so typically with these big, strong momentum moves, I either wait for a delta cross, like a thin delta cross, or a close above the 8. And so if we were waiting for that to happen, it doesn't actually get thinner until this point. See the green triangle? And not only that, but you have lower lows on the price. You have a higher low on the signal line. And so that's bullish divergence there. And so you would have taken this all the way to the close of this candle that closes above the thin delta. That would have been 154 points had I been around for that move. But I did catch the move right after this. So I got my daughter on the bus. I saw this bullish divergence occur. And instead of entering on the close of that candle, I entered on the top of this wick over here. I put a limit order in right there. It came down, tagged me in, and then I exited on the first tick down from the power zone. So that move there was 78 3/4 points. And then on this lower high, the delta was really thin and looking pretty weak there. So instead of entering on the close of that, I tried to enter on the 8 for a short, and then I got stopped out right away over that high. So that's where I'm sitting right now. Oh, looks like I got to plug my camera in 1 second. All right. Good morning, of Earths. I never know whether to call you JWAS or call you of Earths. Since your username's different here on YouTube. What do you prefer? Shandiz, good morning. Here, let me move my chat here so I can see it easier. How's my audio today? Everybody hear me okay? JWAS, all right. We're going with JWAS. Not sure if you guys caught the beginning of the stream, but look at this massive move to the downside. That was beautiful. If you're around for that, I wish I was around for that. My daughter, she hasn't had a bus driver for a while because her bus driver quit, but they just got a new one. So that's why my streams have been starting kind of late at like 8:40. But she got picked up by the bus today, so I was able to hop on a little bit earlier, but I still had to get her ready. So that's why I missed that massive move right there. But hey, at least I caught a little bit of the bounce back up. Awesome. So not a bad start to the day. One win, one loss so far. Suppose just probably check out the news. Let's see what we got going on. For high impact news, that move was probably sparked by this Canadian CPI. Building permits also at 7:30. Looks like we don't have anything until 10:15, the G20 meetings. Not sure how much that will affect the market. Tomorrow, doesn't look like there's really too much of anything going on tomorrow. Crude oil inventories at 9:30. I'm on Central Time, so 9:30 my time. Higher time frames. Looking at the hourly, Delta's above the confirmation line, but it is kind of, it did tick down with that massive candle. Actually, on the hourly, it's not all that massive. On the 1 minute, it's massive. But it looks like on the hourly, it's the Delta has a negative slope to it. Looks like it wants to go under that confirmation line, but we are tapering. So this could just turn around right back here and stay bullish. So I had it marked as neutral just because we were ticked down. It looks like, that was a pretty strong move down. But this could easily flip bullish here once if this hourly candle starts to turn positive again. On the 15-minute, the Delta's under the confirmation line. Confirmation line has a negative slope to it, so we're bearish on the 15. On the 5-minute, Delta's under the confirmation line. However, that confirmation line looks pretty flat. So on the 5, we could just be ranging here. Technically, we're bearish until that Delta gets back above that confirmation line. So I'll leave it marked as bearish. On the 1 minute, looks like we've been kind of grinding our way back up here towards the VWAP. That's the dark blue line up here. We'll see if we keep climbing here, but we are bullish on the 1 minute. Not only is the Delta above the confirmation line, but we have a nice positive slope to the Delta. So it's not very thick, it's still pretty thin, so we could just keep grinding our way up here. Looks like the Delta candle's getting a little thicker now. See what happens here. I typically don't like entries between the open and 840 because it could get pretty volatile right there. But usually that first 15-minute range, once we break either above it or below it, a lot of times it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day. Let's go ahead and mark that out and see what that looks like. So at 8:30, here's the 8:30 candle. And bring that out to 8:45. This is the low. The high so far is right here. I'm going to mark this out as our 15-minute range. So we'll see if we break above or below this. I'm going to leave this at the 40, actually I think it's the 44 candle. That's when that 15-minute range is established. But so far, if we're just going by 1-minute signals from the playbook, we would be waiting for a long setup here. You guys taking any trades yet today? Anybody catch that massive move? Two for two. That's a good day for you. I don't mean for you. I mean, I mean for anybody. It's a good day. Delta's still rising, so the buyers are definitely in control still. All right, our 8:44 candle close, so our 15-minute range has been established. So now that it's established, I can drag this out. And now we wait to see, do we break above or below? I used to draw this 15-minute range like every single time the market would open, and I would try to use that to trade off of. But I have to admit, focusing on that and it can sometimes cloud your judgment a little bit. if you just focus on the signals from the cumulative delta and get rid of all of this other external, indicators and things, a lot of times I do a lot better. A lot of times just adding more information to the screen just unnecessarily complicates things. But today we'll go with it. Today we'll do the 15-minute range. We'll see what happens. We have a lot of lower highs printing in that upper power zone, but it's still powering up. See, the delta is still climbing. It's still strong. So you don't want to trade against that. What you want to see is this delta start to roll over, like at least be flat to somewhat, have somewhat of a negative positive slope on it. You really want to see it start to roll over like that, and then get a lower high tick down somewhere up here and enter short right about there if you're going to go short. But as I was saying before, we really need to be focused on longs right now. For us non-trading gods, we need all the help we can get. Well, we all could use some help. Trading is not easy. Even for the people that do really well every day, trading's still hard. The playbook makes it a lot easier, that I can tell you. So here's our fourth official lower high printed from that upper power zone right there at the VWAP. We'll see if that's kind of a major pivot point there. See if that wants to push it down further. Is that Trading View you're using? Yeah. Yep, this is Trading View. I use Trading View for all my charting and indicators. And but to place orders, I use Quantower. So you did go short there, Jay was, okay. Did you use the 8? Looks like the 8 would have been a little bit better entry as opposed to the close of that candle. So if you were going off of this lower high, the 8 entry would have been there. That would have been a little more accurate. Price is being held up by the 200 moving average on the 4-hour chart. Okay. That delta is starting to turn negative now, so we'll see if she starts to round over. Delta candle's getting thicker, so the sellers are starting to step in here. So far, that entry on the 8 would have been really good. Yeah, the short is playing out nice. I thought the cumulative delta is a he. Are we getting gender specific on the delta now? I exited the short when the price hit the 50 moving average on the 1. Yeah, that's not a bad spot to take profit. Yeah, I have my moving averages turned on today, so that's why you see a little bit more red and green here. This here is the 50. This up here is the 20. And then this slower one is the 200 up here. I think it's the 200. Let me check that. Yeah, it's the 200. We are getting a tick up from that green zone. Delta's starting to turn positive again. Now our ATR is kind of high right now. I'm sitting at an 88. So I usually use an 80 tick stop. And that might not be enough for the size of these candles right now. So if it's not enough, then I should be sizing down. And also when it's doing that, I try to get better entries. So I try to use the 8 a lot. Speaking of, I have a limit order on the 8 right now. I just got picked up for a long. Yeah, my 80 tick stop looks very small. So I should probably size down and increase my stop, but I'll keep a tight stop on it. Yeah, keep in mind, we're still in this 15-minute range, so it could chop in here. Speaking of chop, I'm going to go ahead and mark out our chop that we're getting on the delta. We're alternating from positive, negative to positive. And we just got a tick down in the red zone, so I exited back on that 8. I got out almost break even. The delta is negative, and we got that tick down under the delta. So if we start to roll over a little bit more here, shorts are going to look a little better. Delta's chop on 1 minute. Yep, I marked it out. Slope of the delta is still flat. I want to see it roll over a little bit more. However, this lower high right here might be a good short right there, but we're still stuck in that 15-minute range. We'll see. We're back underneath the 8 now. Usually once it chooses one side of the 8, it likes to stay there. Unless we're chopping, of course. Yeah, it looks like I probably should have just flipped there when I got out of that long. Speaking of that long, looks like I lost 1.5 points. I don't know. What do I call that, a break even, or do I call that a loss? It's almost a break even, but I'll go ahead and call it a loss. That's the way I like to keep them. I like to keep my losses small. Yeah, to see how the delta isn't really rolling over, it's got this flat slope to it, and it's alternating. That is our chop. And as long as we stay in that 15-minute range, you can expect the chop to continue. We did get our second tick up from the green zone. And the overall slope of that delta is still positive. Looks like it's turning positive again right now as we speak. So it looks like she wants to keep climbing. I'm going with she. NQ's a she today. All right, delta's starting to climb outside of our chop box. That's looking better for the bulls. We're back above VWAP now, sitting right on top of VWAP. So this delta squeeze looking setup, it's not a delta squeeze. In order for it to be a squeeze, the delta's got to be up there in that power zone. But do you see how far it is from the power zone? And then also, do you see how far the delta is from the confirmation line? And the confirmation line still has this positive slope to it. Anytime you short when it's far away like that, it's a little bit more risky. Like if you look back over here, do you see how the delta was closer to that power zone when it started to turn down here? That's the way you want to see it. If we go back, you know, like this one over here, it's in that upper power zone, and then it starts heading down. And then in this lower power zone, when it starts heading back up, that's really when you want to jump in the longs. Which is why I longed down here earlier for that move. That was right. This is kind of the sweet spot right there for longs. You want the delta to be in that lower power zone. You want the confirmation line doesn't have to hit the power zone, but it has to be relatively close for it to be optimal. All right, looks like we're still chopping. Yeah, this is still a no-go zone. You don't really want to be entering trades when you see the delta doing this. That is your signal to stay out. Now, in the higher time frames, we should note that we are ticking down from the red zone on the 5. Delta is also tapering. So this on the 5 minute, it looks like we are triggering to possibly go lower. That's a 9 o'clock candle. So if it's still ticked down in 2 minutes, it'll be official. On the 15, it looks like the delta is getting thicker to the downside. We could get a tick down there in the red zone on the 15. So something to keep an eye on. And that hourly still has that negative slope to it. So we still could flip negative on the hourly. Also keep in mind that all of this chop are reacting off that VWAP. So a lot of times the best move of the day comes off of that VWAP. So we'll see if we just consolidate more and then head lower here, potentially. The bulls are fighting, though. We're getting another tick up from that green zone. We're flashing it anyway. Still stuck in that 15-minute range. I'll be right back. All right. Are we moving yet? Still very ugly. We do have a trend line here developing. We'll see if we can get above that. See how beautiful and smooth the market is prior to New York opening. It's so nice. And then New York opens, and it's a rat's nest. A lot of times I wonder if I should just trade pre-market until the open and be done. Retesting that trend line. Delta's still moving up. The bulls are winning this battle. Delta is creeping outside of my chop box. We want to see consistency in that delta. You want to see these nice, smooth moves. You don't want to see these thin, spotty, alternating delta candles. Those are not good trading conditions when you see that. These are good trading conditions when you see these nice, smooth, consistent moves. That's what we want. So who do you think's going to win? The Bulls or the Bears today? So far it's looking like the Bulls have the upper hand. See what Bitcoin's doing today. Bitcoin also has been very kind of choppy lately. Do you see all this chop right here? All that is chop. Looks like Bitcoin's still pushing to the upside, though. So maybe the Bulls will win it out there, too. My wife just said, look at Dogecoin. I don't see much going on with Doge. I don't know what she's talking about. Well, we are above that trend line now. We'll see if we make a little bit of a retest and go. The delta looks really weak though still. It's struggling to stay up. And usually when you see it struggle like this in the upper, near this upper power zone, usually it ends up just rolling over. Delta is actually flashing negative again. Now we're back to flashing positive. Is this the retest? Is it going to take off? See how we're chopping this? The white line is the 8 simple moving average. See how we're above it, below it, above it, below it. It's another decent way to gauge chop. We are ticking up on the signal line. That the overall slope of the delta is still positive, even though we've been chopping. It's been positive this whole time, for the most part. I went ahead and jumped in along on this tick up here. Still risky. It's in the upper power zone. I'm sorry, not the upper power zone, but the upper red zone. And we're still in that 15-minute range, which is known to be very choppy. But we'll see how we play out here. Well, that's not the type of candle I wanted to see. The ATR is still relatively high. All right, I just pulled it. That was a risky trade that did not work out. So minus 13.75. Yeah, I know. The Delta sucks. We did just get a Delta squeeze though. Even though I know that we're chopping here. This is the first somewhat true Delta squeeze that we've received since we've been chopping. Yeah, sizing down is definitely what you want to do here. Yeah, as long as we're still sitting in this 15-minute range, any trade's going to be really risky in there. Just not much to do right now. Best thing you can do is sit on your hands. This is also more of a wedge pattern. I really don't like those. They're usually just nasty consolidations. Sorry if you lost my screen there. I had to adjust something. Well, we are currently back above VWAP, and we were a second ago. It's having trouble getting above it, though, that's for sure. That delta, do you see how it's still just so weak? I would really be surprised at this point if the delta gets enough buyers to keep pushing that thing up. Usually once it gets to this point, when you're near this upper power zone, it's just a matter of time till it rolls over. Delta starting to flash negative again. We got our second Delta squeeze set up on this tick down under the Delta right there. As long as we stay in this range, I'm not taking any trades. I would not recommend that. In the 5 minute, we are flashing that tick down in that upper red zone. It's right on the power zone line. Well, this is no fun. We've been sitting here for 54 minutes of sideways nastiness. Bulls are making another attempt here. Delta's still climbing, grinding its way up. Let's take a look at gold, see what gold's doing. Gold looks like it is in our ranging power condition, or not power condition, market condition. It's detailed in the playbook. The confirmation line, well, over here it was near the center. It's even though it's down here, it's relatively flat. So buying and selling these power zones, that's where it's at. For example, shorting this power zone up here. And maybe exiting on one of these higher lows or the Delta cross. And take it back up from the 8 SMA. It's usually going to be a better entry after you get the cross. And take that to the power zone. There's another winner. Short the power zone. And looks like the Delta's starting to want to climb back up, so you could exit on this Tick up for a, looks to be a small winner to break even. Now there's a lower high. So that could potentially be another short, but now that this delta is starting to climb back up above the confirmation line, longs are probably better. Be nice if NQ was putting in some moves. Slow grind up, elevator down. Yeah, that's typically how it goes. We just broke outside that 15-minute range to the upside. We'll see if she could keep pushing. Delta's getting thicker. Buyers are stepping in. Now that we closed outside of that 15-minute range, we want to see a retest of the range. We do have a pivot line here at 611.50. We'll see if that has enough resistance to push it back down. We also have the daily open up here that we should keep an eye on. Here we are retesting the range. Looks like the retest might be good here. They're starting to tick back up. I just went long. Looks like I am long from 606.16. Go with 25. We did get this tick up here. The delta looks somewhat strong, which is why I went ahead and took this trade. Also the retest of the 15-minute range. However, I really don't like going long up here in that upper power zone. See if we can push up to that daily open. What else do we got over here to the left? Come on, market, keep pushing. Don't fizzle out on me now. Delta still looks good. Signal still looks good. I wish I was seeing more of an aggressive push to the upside. It's a little lackluster. But as long as that delta and signal are cooperating and they look good, there's no reason to get out. Some sellers were stepping in there at the daily open. See if we could push right through them. Excuse me. Come on, almost there. We did get a tick down in that upper power zone. The delta's still pretty strong. We didn't close below the delta, so I'm not completely pulling the plug. I did unload half my position at the top of this wick there on that order block. Come on, one more push. Delta's thinning out a little bit. All right, I'm out. So, unloaded half my position up here, so what was that? It's 125 ticks. So, we'll call it 62 ticks, 15.5 points. Back under that 8 SMA now. Delta crossed in the upper power zone. Starting to get a little bit of a negative slope on that delta. The delta's really thin. I just entered short on the 8 SMA. Now this is going against the grain here. It's not a delta squeeze setup. We never got a negative delta, so it's more of an aggressive entry. Let's see how it plays out here. Well, so far it's looking like she wants to keep pushing. We are ticking up. So if we close this way, I'm going to pull the plug. All right, I pulled it. Minus 12 points on that one. Still might get the delta squeeze here. That's what I'm watching for. That's what I should have waited for, but I was too impatient. I saw the close under the 8, and I wanted to grab the 8. Still waiting for that elevator back down. You know, the 5 looks pretty strong now. I'm going to go ahead and flip that to bullish. The delta's above the, not only is it above the confirmation line, but it's in the upper half, and it's still climbing, and it's still very consistent as opposed to the 1 minute. So we have a little bit of disagreement between our higher time frames. So anytime that happens, there's going to be more chop or more grindy price action. So I want to see more of a negative slope on this delta, or turning negative. And I want to see this tick down underneath the delta. That is our short squeeze. Or not short squeeze, but delta squeeze setup for a short. But we're back above that 8. So it's looking like she just wants to keep grinding up here. If it wanted to go down, it likely would have used that 8 more of as resistance and started to round down more, but we'll see. Might just be taking longer to put the brakes on. All right, we're getting our tick down here. Trying this one more time. Delta's starting to flash negative. That's what we want to see. So the buyers are becoming exhausted. Delta's still pretty flat. It's not, I want to see it turn down more. If we tick up, that's my early exit for hopefully a break even to small loss. But we're still good. Delta starting to flash negative again. Just need a big seller to step in there and push her down. Starting to tick back up. So if we close this way, I'm pulling the plug. And I'm out. She does not want to come down. Not yet. What was that? Minus 8 points. There was a higher low here with a positive delta. So it is a valid long entry. I just don't like going long in the red zone. Well, now it actually came in more contact with that order block, so maybe that's what it was waiting for. We will see. Not a big fan of this price action today. It was really good before the market opened. Very choppy today. HB, what range ATR for NQ do you consider safe, good to trade? Well, you see that green number above my ugly mug there? It says 57.27. That's 4 times the ATR. When I'm looking at that number for NQ, I like that to be above 25. When it starts to get to be like 75, 80, 100, or over 100, that's when an 80 tick stop is too small, and that's when you really got to size down. But for an 80 tick stop, I really like it anywhere from 25, 30 to like 65. That's kind of like the sweet spot for me. That's where it typically trades, in that range. So if that number was under 25, under 20, I mean, you could still have profitable trades, but a lot of times it's not worth sitting around forever just to gain a couple points. So I try not to trade if it's under 20. And then on the really big volatile days, like FOMC, if that thing climb, you know, I've seen it climb up to like 150 or so. And I mean, that's just too much. I mean, you really got to size it down. Even trading just 1 micro, it's like, it's too risky. Sorry, I missed your question earlier. Looks like you wrote that like 45 minutes ago. Well, we're flashing another tick down underneath the delta. Just kind of waiting for this thing to lose some steam. Or give us a proper long setup. So, you know, a proper long setup, if we are going to go into more of a sustained uptrend, and all this is detailed in the playbook, by the way, but, you know, we want to see that signal calm down here somewhere in the green zone and tick up, or come down to the lower power zone and tick up. That's ideal. That's the entry I really want. Or wait for this tick up to pull back and then tick up with a higher low on the signal, all while the delta is either tapering or positive. But if this delta gets underneath this confirmation line, let's say that the delta starts to roll over like this, and the confirmation line starts to go like that. You know, these are your fatter delta candles. If it gets like this, and we get this scenario where the signal ticks up from the bottom half here, and then it comes up in this red zone, and then ticks down, and the delta is still weak and still falling. Doesn't matter if it ticks down here. It could come all the way up here and tick down. Anywhere in this red zone, if it ticks down, that is the short setup. Delta's starting to turn negative again. Hey, if you guys haven't hit the like button, could you please do me a favor and hit the like? Still trying to get the algorithm to show these videos to more people. Maybe get some more people in here trading with us. That would be awesome. Appreciate it. So the price is still very much using that 21 as a support line. See how long it can hold now that we broke out of that 15-minute range. And, you know, as I was saying earlier, like usually once you break outside this 15-minute range, so here we broke out to the upside, usually it likes to stay on that side for the rest of the day. Usually, not all the time. Yeah, the 15-minute break was definitely the best setup. And that's, you know, I was talking about it as all this was playing out. But sometimes I find myself getting impatient and I still jump in a trade or two in the range. But yeah, I mean, if you're if you're really just trying to play it safe and look for the highest probability setups, waiting for that range break is key. Still seeing very grindy price action though to the upside. It's not really a market condition that I like. I much prefer when the market is, has these impulsive or momentum pushes where it's like just a clean push, not a lot of chop in between. That's just, to me, it's a lot easier to trade those. This grindy stuff, it's like, I'd almost rather just walk away. That delta is still getting really weak. It keeps flashing negative. We are getting that tick down underneath. Looks like we are going to get that delta confirmation line cross to the downside. Well, if we get a good setup here, maybe we can still ride the elevator back down. So we do have more of that negative slope that I'm looking for on the delta. The delta did turn negative here. But at the same time, you're above that. You're above that 20. So it's still that grindy upwards price action, so you don't really want to trade against that. You're better off waiting for like if you had a big engulfing candle to the downside here and then have this signal pull into the lower half, have the delta cross underneath the confirmation line, and then have the signal pull back up here and tick down right there. So price would consolidate here a little bit, and then on the signal push up, it would push up in here, which is typically like a fair value gap. And on that tick down, as long as the delta is still weak at that point, right here, then we short. Again, all of that is detailed in the playbook. The 15-minute delta is getting to be above that confirmation line now. So it looks like the 15 is about to flip bullish. However, you do have the signal line in that upper power zone, so if that signal line ticks down from up there and then the delta starts tapering, even if you get above it, that's still kind of bearish on the 15. The hourly looks like it's trying to turn up, but it's still so thin. So I'm still calling the hourly neutral. But it is above the confirmation line. So technically it's bullish. I'll go ahead and flip it to bullish. But if this ticks down from this red zone here, I could easily flip bearish again, which is why I had it marked as neutral. On the 5-minute, we did tick down from that upper power zone, but the delta candles are now in the upper half, so that doesn't really mean as much right there. When these are in the, and see how strong and consistent those 5-minute candles are. Speaking of the 5-minute, let's go over there and see what that price action looks like. I'm going to go ahead and mark out this 5-minute order block right here. That might be it. We might grind to that and then roll over. Yeah. Go to the 15. Back to the 1. Still waiting for that death candle, that big engulfing candle to the downside, which could give us more of a short setup. Or a long setup. I would take a long setup. There just really hasn't been anything. It's been very blah. Yeah, I really don't like this type of price action. I feel like there's other better things I could be doing. We need to find a different way to kind of kill the time. What do other people do on live streams when there's nothing going on? think some guys do like giveaways and stuff. Now we're getting more of a engulfing candle to the downside off that order block. They give money to their followers. Well, maybe if we could get the audience to tick up here, get more subscribers, maybe we could start doing that. Start throwing money out the window. Did you guys have any questions about the playbook? JWAS, in this case, to short, I really wait for 5-minute delta to turn red. Yeah, or at least taper. I don't even see it tapering. It just looks really consistent. It's just taking the slow elevator to the upside. Also notice that like on this grindy move up, see how we're moving up, but if you look at the 8 SMA, we're not staying on one side of the 8. Like, you know, we close below it here, we're back above, we close below it here, we're back above, we close below it here. I mean, it's another way to know that it's just more grindy price action to the upside. You want it to stay on one side of the 8 like this. I mean, this is beautiful. Do you see here? Do you see here how it uses that as resistance? Stays, like, of course it wicks above it, but it doesn't close above it. It stays below it. Those are the moves we want to see. We don't want to see this chop in the 8 business. Time's at 10:12, so in 3 minutes, the 15-minute candle will close. And if this candle closes right there where it's at, then the 15 is going to flip bullish, technically. We're going to bust through that order block here. Looks like it's working on it. Or not. That delta is still very thin, spotty. Chop. We are getting another tick down with the negative delta. The the delta actually just closed under the confirmation line, so I mean technically the one's turning bearish right now. But as Jay was saying, it's better to see at least some tapering or something here on the 5. I mean, with what the 5's doing, if you short here, you're trading against the 5, and it's not great with this grindy price action. If we were getting more swings in here, then it'd be fine. But it's not even swinging. It's just grinding. $15 is technically bullish now. All right, we are starting to get a higher low. So even though this is the red zone, if you wanted to take a long trade in this grindy price action to the upside, if you think it's going to continue grinding, taking a higher low on the signal is not a bad entry if it closes that way. But we just closed under that confirmation line on the 1, so I still don't like it. There's just it's not a good setup either way right now. So when there's not a good setup, it's better to just stay out. We did put in that higher low though. So if we pretend we did go long there, you'd be in right here. And now it pushes. So yeah, that would have worked. I feel like it's having such a hard time moving up though. You would think that there's going to be a move down, at least somewhat of a pullback soon. But yeah, that higher low, that would have worked. It looks like so far that'd be a good trade. Yeah, now it's moving pretty nice now. We do have a little bit of a channel here. Keep that in mind. It's a bearish channel. You know, when the price action's boring like this, I always end up drawing things on the screen and channels and wedges and all this stuff that I guess more just occupies my brain a little bit, gives me something to do. When really, if you're just following the playbook, following the signals on the cumulative delta, you don't need any of that. You don't need to be aware of channels or wedges. Or, well, trend lines still kind of help, but it's unnecessary. And right back down she goes. Now see, we got the delta cross under that confirmation line. We are getting that tick down. This might start turning more bearish here. I feel like it's just a matter of time till we do get this move down. Looks like the top of that channel provided some resistance there. Five minutes finally printing somewhat of a lower high on the signal, but there's still not much tapering going on over there. It's still climbing pretty steadily. Not only was that the top of that channel, but it's this 5-minute order block it's also reacting to. And I think that's the main order block here that so in the 1 minute you don't see too much of it, but that might be the top there. Jay Waz, you said this damn thing. Does that mean you went short and it went up? Blue Macaron, are the 1 minute and 5 minute rectangles from any indicator? Are you talking about these callouts here? Are you talking about these chop boxes? Oh, these. No, I draw those in manually. I mean, there are indicators. Zeiierman has some pretty good indicators for automatically putting order blocks on the screen. I do it a very particular way that most indicators do not. I actually have a video on how I mark my order blocks. So yeah, go back to my channel and search for order blocks and watch my video on order blocks and how I draw those out. Well, for those of you that have read the playbook and know how to identify a sustained trend, would you call this a sustained trend at this point? Sure is a choppy one. Brian Taylor, I would say yes, but choppy with no respect for the 8 EMA. Actually, using SMA for the 8. So it makes it difficult to trade unless you got an early and held. Yeah. I mean, the closer that you can get these signal pullbacks to the midline, like if you can't get them in the green zone, you can take these for your entries, but it's still kind of easy to get chopped up taking those up there in the red zone, so I don't like doing it. This is probably the market condition that I hate the most. I hate this more than just sideways chop. Because sideways chop, you at least know like to stay out, but with this stuff, it's like you can go long here and then it could just dump on you, and when you could get, once it breaks this lower trend line, you get one candle that comes all the way down here. Stop everybody out all at once. I just don't like this market condition. Speaking of the playbook, let's pull that up. Let's see if I could pull that up. And, I think I might have just lost that there. Hold on a second. I gotta find my playbook. Where did my playbook go? It's so weird. I just opened it, but it's not showing up on my screen capture view here for the streaming software. All right, I guess I'll put it back here. Let me see. I'm still getting used to this streaming software and how to pull up other files. And sometimes everything works great, and other times it doesn't make any sense why things disappear. Let me try it in a different way. Yeah, I don't know where it went. Well, I guess we will not show the playbook. Still grinding up here. The 15 looks pretty strong on those Delta candles. The 5 minute still very consistent. Still just a slow grind up. Maybe if we can get above these order blocks, then we'll start putting in some decent moves. On the 1 minute, the Delta has that positive slope again, which is bullish for the 1 minute. We are getting our second lower high from the power zone, which is not bullish. Still just very neutral. JWAS, there's going to be all sorts of liquidity built up under this silly trend, yeah. Yeah, I always wonder, like, what's happening here? Is this is just is it just a lot of buy programs that are, anytime anybody tries to sell, they're just buying it up for a bigger move that's about to happen later? Is there big news tomorrow? Let's look at our news again. I don't think there was big news tomorrow. Tomorrow, ECB President Lagarde speaks. I don't think that would be big news. Crude oil inventories, that should be big news. I mean, there's no earnings or anything this week, is there? Ian H. NVIDIA. Does NVIDIA have earnings? Or something? Something going on with NVIDIA? Is that today? That might explain it. That's one thing that I don't have on my news feed. On my TOMMYBOTS news feed here. I don't have any earnings on there. I need to find a way to get earnings on there. All this information right here is all coming from Forex Factory. But it filters out all of the stuff you don't care about, so it only shows the medium and high impact news. But I got to figure out a way to get earnings on there too, like high impact earnings. Because that's one thing I always miss. Thursday, huh? Today's Tuesday. Okay, well. Man, she's still just pushing up. So we got the previous day high up there at like 20,725. Be interesting to see if we can hit that. It's up here. 724.50. We did just sweep some liquidity up here. Another thing to keep in mind. After the close tomorrow. Okay, so NVIDIA's earnings after the close tomorrow. So maybe we get a lot of choppy action until then. Let's look back at some of these and just see how we would have done had we taken some of these tick ups here. So we did have a little bit of drawdown here, which you might have exited on if you were trying to keep a tight leash on it. But if you held it, and that's what I mean, like in these choppy conditions, I like to keep my losses small. So if it ticks against me and I'm underwater, I typically pull the plug. So that would have been a loss for me. But if you held it, you obviously could have done more with it. It's just very painful. Now, if we took this next one, again, you get a tick down. Well, you get a tick down here. So that's actually a small winner. If you took this one, and we do get a tick down here, that would have been a break even. Get a tick up right here. And a tick down, another like break even. This is why I hate I hate choppy, grindy trends. There's just no follow through. I mean, obviously it eventually follows through, but it's just very hard to trade. I would rather just walk away than try to trade that. Yeah, it's just ugly. All right, is this it? Are we finally getting... We're getting a delta squeeze set up here. It is negative. We are ticking down under the delta. We did sweep some liquidity. So if you're checking off everything on your list, it does hit some of those items. But you're in a grindy uptrend, and it's hard to trade against that. Just easily get chopped up. Well, it's 10:44. It's almost, well, Central Time, my time. Is it going to do this into lunch, or do you think it's going to get good at lunch? A lot of times when it's choppy in the morning, it gets really good at lunch. And then usually right after I quit the stream, things start moving again. That choppy delta starting to come back. Still ticked down though, so maybe this will turn into a move. You know it's got to break here. It can't do this forever. It's got to break at some point. We're back below that 8 SMA, which hasn't really mattered so much on this grind up here. We are ticking back up in the red zone. Not official. We were a second ago. Now it's official. Ticked up in the red zone. Back above the 8. Sitting on top of those order blocks. And the 21. Got our second lower high. I want to see that delta just start to fall apart and start to round down here. It's staying relatively flat, so it's still very risky to short. Getting more of a barcode consolidation here. We are ticking up again from the red zone. Yeah, it just does not want to drop. Still more barcoding going on. Looks like it's trying to put in a third lower high. Now, threes. There we go. Now it's finally doing it. I was going to say, your third lower high is really kind of hard to pass up for short. This is number 3. It's not official yet. It will be in 20 seconds. Now we should start seeing the delta start to gain more of a negative slope. But I mean, this is the first like break outside of that channel that we've had so far. See what happens here. Five-minute delta and signal in the power zone. Yeah, we want to see that delta. We want to see a delta cross on the 5. It's still trying to power through. I was thinking about shorting the 8 right there. I didn't do it, but the thought crossed my mind. Had I done that, I'd be in the profit right now. JWAS needs to break and close below the 50 on the 1 minute. Has been support this whole ride, yeah? It does. Also, try to anticipate the moves from the playbook. So we got our move to the lower half with the signal. So if we're anticipating that early trend entry to the downside, this is that move that I was talking about earlier, where we want to see this delta continue to have this negative slope. We want to see the signal pull up somewhere in the red zone. It could be anywhere in here. And then tick down. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. By doing it that way, you're sort of letting it, you know, put in this first move to the downside, and then you get in on that first pullback. Bathroom break. Be right back. Okay. So we got our tick up from the green zone. What I was going to mention is you should always take these too, because after a sustained uptrend like that, this is technically like the first decent pullback. So that setup for a short that I was talking about before I left, that might never present itself if this move here plays out. So usually I always take this move as long as the delta is tapering, which it looks like it was right there, because this could just power through all this and make another high. But if it gets up here and then it loses steam, and then I'll draw this in here. So if this signal comes up in here, loses steam and ticks down, and the delta is still heading down, then that is where I would exit my long and flip short. So we'll see who wins here. Will it be the Bulls or the Bears? So as I was saying, this tick up, this is the one that I was saying that normally I would take. I just didn't because I was in the middle of explaining it. We'll simulate it here. Delta's still looking pretty weak, so I think this might actually end up playing out more for the short side. We'll see. So we got our signal back in that upper half in the red zone. All right, the Bulls got to step it up here if they're going to do it. All right, got that 5-minute delta cross, as Jay was pointed out. Yeah, I think it's the shorts that might win this one. So we are ticking down from the red zone. We'll see if it makes it official here. Got about 15 seconds. All right, I am short. Short from 669.83. All right. Somebody push the elevator button down. Yeah, 5-minute delta is starting to become exhausted. So far, we're seeing exactly what I wanted to see. We have the delta now has this negative slope. It looks like it's gaining a little bit of momentum to the downside. We need more though. We need more bears to start stepping in here. We want to see these delta candles get thicker. There we go. Now they're starting to get a little thicker. I want to see more of a push. I don't like that hammer candle I'm starting to see. The signal is in that lower power zone. Just be aware of that. You know, hopefully all of that upward price action was just accumulation for a move to the downside. We'll see. So far it's a little lackluster though. That delta's starting to taper back up. We still don't have a official tick up from the power zone though, so I'm still in. All right, we need to see those bears step in here. Keep pushing. We need to see those fat delta candles. Come on, fats. We need more elevator. Less stairs, more elevator. We are getting a tick up from that lower power zone. So I'm going to move my stop to break even. Delta's still tapering. I'm going to hold through this on this tick up here. What I want to see, if this does tick up, I want to see it tick back down and stay under that 8 SMA. And have the delta candles fatten back up because it is tapering right now. Well, we closed under. That's a good sign. All right, now we just need them to push again. I am starting to see a fatter delta candle coming through. Briefly. Come on, man. And I'm out. Break even. Well, it didn't push very far. 15.5 points total. Could have secured some profit if I exited on this tick up from the power zone, but I was looking for a bigger move. I wanted to see it come down and at least retest this daily open down here. It still might do that. It might give us another entry here. We'll see. Jwaz, I pressed the button down. Maybe there's something wrong with the button. So now, you always want to anticipate that next move, right? So now what I would be looking for. So we do have this negative sloping delta. We also have this negative sloping confirmation line. Well, it's starting to round over. See that? So this is still very bearish. So just because the price is moving up here does not mean we're looking to go long at this point. We're still looking for a short. So sometimes it just takes a little bit longer for this to play out. So what I'm looking for is for this signal to continue back up here and tick down, or up to this upper power zone and tick down, all while having a very weak delta. If the delta starts to gain a lot of strength and it starts to, you know, round back up like this, then I'm not as interested in a short. But if it can remain really weak and flatten out and start to roll over like that, that's ideal for a short. Delta's still relatively weak. It is positive, but it's weak. We always want to take advantage of a weak delta. Kind of like how a lion takes advantage of their weak prey. Delta's starting to turn negative again. It is weak. We are in the red zone. So shorts are on the table if we can get our tick down. Delta is gaining some strength. On the 5-minute, this might actually just look like a bull flag. Let's check it out. Yeah. So we got our long pole. It's a grindy pole, but it's a pole. Might be just a bull flag on the 5. But it's been a grindy pole, so could potentially be a bull flag breakout failure, which we could take advantage of. So Delta is still flat. I don't see a positive slope to it. It's positive, but it's flat. So shorts are still on the table, potentially. And we are above the 8 SMA. So as a confirmation, you could wait for a close under the 8 as well. I went ahead and pulled the trigger for a short here. I'm in at 675.75. Now this looks like a bull flag on the 1, but just following the rules here. See, we closed under the 8, but it was like just barely. I prefer those anyway. I prefer them to be just barely. All right, we are ticking up, so I'm going to pull the plug if we close this way. I'm out. Small loss. Looks like a 4-point loss. Now, if we can get another tick down or a lower high, yeah, smash that down button. Not on the video. On the elevator. We want to go down a few floors. Delta's still really weak. $30 seconds until the close. Delta's starting to turn negative again. Sometimes you don't get it on the first tick. We are underneath the 8 again. And no tick down, so no short yet. See if we could stay under that 8. We are starting to tick up on the 5. So, like I said, this could just be a bull flag on the 5-minute. Something to be aware of. Yeah, that delta's gaining more strength now. Looks like this could have been a retest of that trend line. This is also in the playbook for a bull flag breakout. If you were looking at this as the flagpole, then you got your consolidation. You got somewhat of a trend line. It's not very defined, but somewhat of a trend line there. And then you get your tick up right here. Technically, you can go long there. I prefer the short in this particular scenario, but we'll see. Keep in mind, we're still underneath that confirmation line. Delta's still relatively weak, so this could just be a fake out here. Now the delta's gaining more steam to the upside. Was. Shorts are still on the table. Delta's starting to turn negative. We're closer to that power zone now. We're ticking down. I went ahead and took it. All right. Somebody go fix that elevator. I think she wants to go down now. What do you think? Is it time? So just to recap what we discussed, this is what we were waiting for. We were waiting for the delta to cross under the confirmation line with the negative slope to stay weak, which it did. The signal line to pull into the upper half and tick down near that power zone. Delta candles are gaining downside momentum. They're getting thicker. That's exactly what we want to see. Patience pays off. So we're getting closer to that daily open. Keep in mind that could be a support level. So if you wanted to secure a bag, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take profit here. It'd be 41 points from the signal. However, usually when I set targets like that, I always end up regretting it. I mean, it's nice to stuff it a sure thing in the bag, but I typically do better if I just follow the exit signal on the cumulative delta, so I'm going to wait for that. My stop is at break even. We are ticking up from the green zone. Delta is tapering, which isn't great. As long as we stay on this side of the 8, though, I'm going to hold through it. Retesting that 8 right now. Let's see how far she went. 32 3/4 points. Still not bad. Still holding here. Might get stopped out. We'll see. Okay, I think we did technically close above the 8 there, just barely. We'll see if she wants to hold. Delta's starting to turn positive. Still not a great sign. And I'm out. Well, that sucks. All of that waiting just for that. Now, you know, if you were using like a 125 tick take profit, you would have been golden. Somewhere in there. You know, if you targeted 30 points, you would have had it. I tend to look for the bigger moves, and that's more my problem, is I try to, you know, I have a lot of these smaller wins, and but the big moves, when you get them, they can pay for a lot of the smaller wins. It's like, you know, you look at earlier today. I mean, this move right here, I mean, those come around, and that's 154 points right there if you hold through this negative delta like that. But if the, you know, you could see throughout the entire move that the delta was cooperating. In this particular move that we were just in, the delta said nope. And you could see that right here when it started to taper. I mean, it was tapering to like a fine point. I mean, if it was going to go down, you would have seen those delta candles stay negative all throughout. But you never know when that's going to happen, so I try to hold through those. But if you're trying to play the short game, that was a nice winner there on the short game. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean that we're going long here. Shorts are still on the table as long as that delta stays under that confirmation line. So if we get that signal back up in that power zone and we still have a weak delta and it ticks down, then we jump back in. Well, so far, that was the most excitement we've seen in a couple hours, I think. Well, you know, my theory still holds true. If we chop in the morning, it gets good at lunchtime. And it is lunchtime. And that's some of the best action we've seen yet. This delta now has more of a positive slope to it. See that? So any shorts here are going to be pretty risky. You're better off potentially playing a long play if this comes down here, ticks up above the delta, and if that delta keeps rising and stays strong like that, that is a potential long. Well, Jay Waz, I think you fixed part of the elevator. You were hitting all the buttons. We did go down a little bit. You know, it looks like what we're getting into here is more of a broadening formation. So with the broadening formation, you're making higher highs, and you're also making these lower lows. And while that's happening, what you can do is just wait for the high to get broken, which we just broke this high. So, you know, it'll come up, retest that trend line, and then if you get a sell signal, you can expect it to come all the way back down and take out this low and end up down here somewhere. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. Go ahead and get rid of this line here. And these. Let's fix these. Yeah, that's probably more of the trend line somewhere in there. But obviously you don't just short right there, you wait for a short signal. Right now the delta is really strong to the upside. We are curling back up. Those delta candles are gaining a lot more momentum. You know what's interesting is, and I see this all the time. You see this green line up here? See how we wicked perfectly to that green line? Now we just wick to it again. That line is from the Onsen Effects Algo indicator. And that is your ADR daily limit. So that's the average daily range. And it's pretty accurate. JWAS said we were going to break above, and we just broke above. So it looks like you were correct on that one. Yeah, the delta, I mean, you could see the buyers are there. We are ticking down from that upper power zone, though. So if we see tapering right here, there is still, you know, we did sweep liquidity over here. So this could, you know, could be a SpaceX rocket and come all the way back down here. I would not go long up there. There was a little bit of tapering right here on this candle. See how this candle is smaller than this one? And we tick down. So that is a valid short. It's an aggressive short, but it's a valid short there. BTC close to all-time high? Really? Oh, yeah. It's looking pretty good. Delta is back above the confirmation line. Something worth noting on the one. Which means we are technically back in bullish territory. That delta does look pretty strong. If the delta was, if it showed signs of weakness here, and we got like a lower high in that power zone, I'd be interested in a short. But it looks really strong. We are ticking up here. This is technically a long setup. I don't like buying these big candles, but it looks pretty good so far. All right, I am short on the close of that candle. I'm sorry, long, not short. Hopefully this is not a failed breakout here. Keep in mind, this is where longs are risky. It's up there in that red power zone. But as long as the delta agrees, then you should be good. So we have a nice, strong, positive sloping delta. So the buyers are on your side. So at least at the moment, this could change. It could just consolidate here and roll over. So we want it to jump out of the gate here. We don't want it to sit there forever. Taurus trades. Not sure if it's my end, but your voice keeps going in and out. Is that happening for anybody else? Looks like my mic is should be good. I don't see any signs of anything not working. starting to hesitate a little here at my entry. The delta is starting to show some signs of weakness. It's starting to taper. This is what I didn't want to see for long, and that's why I said that these longs here can be risky. We are getting that lower high with tapering. I went ahead and flipped. So I am short now from here. Ian, all good here. I am in the UK. Good. So, you know, I said I went long there because the delta was looking really strong, but you always want to watch out and pull the plug for any signs of weakness there, because that power zone is very powerful for shorts. That's why it's called power zone. And I still think that we're in somewhat of a broadening formation here. I mean, even if you look at, you know, on a higher time frame, this still could come down and want to take out this low, which if it did, it would probably end up hitting the daily open. Again, being patient and waiting for short signals in the power zone is better than trying to go long up there. But sometimes I get impatient. Delta is negative and starting to head down. Just need some more bears to jump in. And what I don't want to see is I don't want to see this end up becoming a broadening formation. Because if that happens, then we're going to run back up here and take out that high. We are getting a tick down under the delta on the 5. Something to be aware of. And again, we want the price to stay under that 8 SMA. That's my white line. All right, delta candles are starting to gain a little bit more momentum to the downside. That's what we want to see. Just need some follow through. There we go. These candles are starting to fatten up a little bit now. It's almost time for JWAS to get back on the elevator button. We go ahead and move to break even. Delta is back under the confirmation line, which tells us the bears are now in control. We want to see more and more bears start to step in. We want to see those delta candles thicken up. And stay under that 8 SMA. All right, we're breaking the 50 now. Starting to. We want to see it close under that 50. We don't really want to see it be used as support. There's still no exit. Signal line still headed down. Delta still headed down. The 15 is still pretty bullish though. The hourly is turning more bullish. The 5, we ticked down under that delta, but it still isn't really turning down. It's just flat, which tells me this could be a short-lived move to the downside. We are tapering and we're taking up from the green zone, so I am out. It's a small winner. 7.25 points. Keep in mind, we're still bearish, so just because we ticked up from the green zone and took profit does not mean that we're no longer looking for shorts. So if we get this tick down and we see a strong delta candle to the downside, that is our impulsive breakout entry. We're getting that right now. See if it's confirmed. All right, it's confirmed. It closed that way. So I'm back in a short. Now the delta is starting to taper again. You want to see these candles continue to grow. You don't want to see the delta start to taper. So if we taper and we tick back up, that's my exit signal. Not only exit, but I would also flip long right there. Still tapering. It's like borderline ticking up right here. See if the bears can push her back down. Delta's starting to turn positive now. Looks like that might have been a little bit of a fake out to the downside. But we'll see where we close. We got 30 seconds. Could also be getting into some lunchtime chop here. All right, I exited right here and I flipped long. I'm long at 692. And I went long because the delta, so we've been in this uptrend all day. Delta still it's under the confirmation line, but it's still in the upper half, which gives some points to the bull side. And we were tapering and flipping positive on the delta. There was a bit of a fake out to the downside, which usually gives that a little bit of gas in the other direction. So we'll see if this delta can start to round back up here for the bulls. And we have a double bottom on the signal. That's usually a pretty good signal to go long in the green zone. However, if we tick back down and the delta turns negative again, that would be our chop signal. And if that happens, I'm going to hang it up and be done. So we'll keep our eye out for that. It's not official, so I'll get rid of my chop box. This is one of those mini broadening formations we were talking about. So you get the lower lows, and we'll see if we make a higher high here. We touch that trend line. Looks like we are. Those are, they happen on all time frames. They happen on the 1 minute, the 5, the 15. They're hard to trade on the 1 because the price doesn't move that much while it's in that broadening formation. But like if you can catch it on the 5 or the 15, then it's easier to trade those things. It's going to be noon in 2 minutes. We are starting to get our tick down. Delta starting to go negative again, so yeah. We might be entering chop here. We'll see. We're going to get that tick down. We got it. I'm out. Another small loss. 3 1/4. Well, as crappy as today has been, it's still been a profitable day. But I think I'm just going to hang it up here. I see chop setting in for lunchtime. Hopefully it gets a little bit better this afternoon. I got some other things I got to attend to, so I'm probably not going to be trading this afternoon, but I will be on same time tomorrow. Probably 8:30, maybe a little bit earlier now that my daughter gets on the bus earlier. So good luck. Thanks for tuning in. Give the video a like if you can, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care, guys.
Oh, wow, look at that move. It's like one of those big Delta candles. I mean, who even trades those tiny candles anymore? I like big fat candles, I can't deny. When the Delta's green and riding high, when a chart spikes thick with a bullish wick, I'm glued to my screen, that's the trick. I want to bounce quick, can't let it go. Big Delta bars, let that volume show. I'm zooming out, yeah, that's my groove. Catching waves in a Delta move. Wanna trade slow? Nah, too tame. This market's got heat, I'm in the game. Delta skinny, not my taste. Fat candles on my happy place. Oh, traders, let me see that line. When the buyers push, I feel just fine. It's the fat move, no squeeze fake. I'm in this trend with no break. Got entries stacking tall, no weak signals, I'm all in, y'all. Skinny candles just ain't for me. Big Delta's my golden key. Sitting tight while volume pops. Green wave up won't make me stop. Short candles, nope, they're aboard. Give me fat Deltas, I want more. Like those thick moves, yeah, yeah. I wanna break through. You know, don't you fold. Big Deltas fill the chart with might. Skinny moves don't make it right. Fat candles, can't deny when the volume surges up so high. Skinny trades can take a seat. Big fat deltas are what I beat. Well, traders low, let me see that life is cause I'm my happy. Delta skinny, not my taste. Fat candles are my happy place. Oh, traders, let me see that line. When the buyers push, I feel just fine. It's the fat move, no squeeze fake. I'm in this trend with no break. Got entries, stacking tall. No weak signals, I'm all in, y'all. Skinny candles just ain't for me. Big delta's my golden key. Big delta's my golden key. Sitting tight while volume pops. Green wave up won't make me stop. Short candles, nope, they're aboard. Give me fat deltas, I want more. Like those thick moves, yeah, yeah. I wanna break through, you know. And hold the blade, don't you fold. Big deltas fill the chart with might. Skinny moves don't make it right. Like those thick moves, yeah, yeah. I wanna break through, you know. Then hold, then play, don't you fold. Big deltas fill the chart with might. Skinny moves don't make it right.